Okay, well, it's another injury-filled week. Yay! I guess we'll talk about it. And we are the Rotohackers podcast. My name is Judah Buddha. I'm sitting here virtually with it's Jared. He always beats me. And we are here to give you some
bad news.
some unauthorized bad news for fantasy football. A lot of injuries and add COVID on top of that. And we've got a crazy week 4. Drew already in the chat. What's up? What's up, Drew? I like the word fellas.
Sure, I can get on board with that.
So what should we tackle first?
I mean, I think COVID is quickly becoming the dominant story this week. You know, we've had some time to ingest the Titans Steelers bit, you know, so we knew that was happening. Like, okay, well, it's one game. And we thought at first it was going to get moved to Monday or Tuesday, and then they've had more positive cases, and then they had more today. They're probably going to have more tomorrow. So I think now that's starting to become a little bit worrisome, not only for the Titans this week, but maybe next week, you know. So on top of that, then, you know, it just broke shortly before we came on that Cam Newton had tested positive. So he's not going to play. Are the Patriots and Steelers, or I'm sorry, even the Patriots and Chiefs, are they even going to play? Because the last thing I saw was that the Patriots were sort of on standby awaiting instructions from the NFL, because, you know, when you have one like this, usually it's not just one. So I think there's a possibility that game could either get pushed back a day or two, or depending on the results, get canceled or postponed to another week. So now we're starting to mount some problems here.
But it feels a little different. This case, Cam, I mean, it feels a lot different than the Steelers Titans game, and it feels like this may be just a couple people sitting out and they continue with the game, because it could get out of hand. I don't think they want to start postponing, and at some point they're just going to have to play the games.
I mean, maybe
they're either going to have to play the games, or they're going to have to just cancel the NFL, because it's just not going to work.
Yeah. I don't know. There are no rules. There's no roadmap. Right. You know, I mean, and then we've seen leagues that will say one thing and then decide later to do something else. That's more so with college football.
Also, baseball, right?
Also baseball to a certain extent. Could they cut it down to like a 13 game season? I don't know that any options are off the table here. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Field Yates just tweeted, the expectation is that the Chiefs and Patriots game will not be played as scheduled tomorrow.
Really?
Yep.
Doggone it.
So maybe that means it's pushed back again. Well, basically just what I just said before I saw that tweet. Maybe it means it's pushed back. Maybe they can push it back a day or two and wait to see if there's more positive tests today or tomorrow. But
so that means Mahomes. That means
Tyreek. That means CEH. That means Travis Kelce. You lose a Chiefs game and you are hurting.
This is frustrating, but this is what we expected.
Well, this is what we expected, and then we got, sort of, or at least I did. I know, like through the first couple of weeks, like, oh, oh, maybe this is going to be okay after all.
And
It
that
worked.
may be
Yeah.
that may be why we're seeing a lot of cases. Maybe people got a little too complacent, and like,
Yeah.
oh, and then
Yeah.
they went out, kissed some girls or something. I don't know. So we have that, and then it just seems like a plethora of leg injuries. How much of this do you think I'm hearing more and more rumbles about the turf and how this turf new, like people put arenas putting in new turf instead of grass or something like that, how this new turf is supposed to be a new technology in turf is actually worse for the football players' legs.
Okay. I hadn't really I had seen some stuff about the turf, but I haven't really read up on it. I don't know. I mean, I was just sort of attributing it, like this rash of injuries, to um, possibly just like such a weird off season where maybe there was a period of time where players had a downtime and then now they were coming back. And like I had a stress fracture in my leg a couple years ago where I had stopped running for a while, went back, tried to just kind of go back up to full speed too soon, and got a stress fracture in it. So that's kind of what I attributed it to. And I've seen some of the other NFL analysts say the same thing. That could be completely wrong. I don't know the story really on the turf. Maybe it is the turf if they've implemented some new system across the league or something.
Yeah. Well, I'd heard some interesting, or no, I read an article. I think we talked about this last year, an article about how the new technologies in shoes, they're making shoes that could grip really well, but it was sort of had unintended consequences for the human body, for being able to stick your landings and stuff. And I was watching that game on Thursday night, and what's his name, the rookie for the Broncos, yeah, the one that had that really bad, his leg kind of sort of twisted or something when he was going for the reception.
Was it KJ Hamler or?
Yeah, Hamler. Yeah, okay. When Hamler was going up, I watched it and it did look terrible. And it wasn't any kind of weird situation. It was just his leg slipped when he thought it wasn't going to and caught when he, and I could see how that could really throw the body off when you're not really sure how your footing is going to be,
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot of comments. So let's continue talking about the news. I want to talk about week 4 already starting, with the Thursday night's game. I want to talk about Thursday night's game a little bit more, but we have Seth in the comment section saying, could you rank these guys for me? Drake, Taylor, Sanders, and Mixon. First of all, are any of them affected by the COVID news? No, right? Okay.
Not as of yet. No.
Carson, Drake, Taylor, and Sanders, Mixon.
So right now, the tough thing with at least 2 of those guys, with Carson and Mixon, is that there's no guarantee that they're going to play. Chris Carson right now looks like it's going to be a game time decision. That's the latest update on him. Mixon, let's see. The latest update on Mixon is questionable with a chest injury. I guess he, midweek got downgraded to questionable. Says, the belief is that he'll play. So that makes it a lot tougher because of that uncertainty there.
Are you picking up Gio anywhere?
I probably will if I have a spot now, because there's going to be places where I need somebody, if potentially for CEH. There were a couple of leagues where I had Derrick Henry and James Conner, both. So in a league where I don't have another good option, where I may already be missing 2 running backs, not just one, or maybe 3. I'm not sure. Maybe I've got a league where I've got James Conner, Derrick Henry, and CEH. We'll have to see. But I'm may just have to add someone on the possibility that they might start, be a starter due to injury. Okay, let's see. So
What? We getting new news?
yeah,
Oh no.
so the Chiefs practice squad QB Jordan Ta'amu, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's TA''AMU has tested positive for COVID. So
The Chiefs?
the Chiefs, their
Oh.
practice squad QB. So I don't know if he was. Sometimes they bring up, like practice squad guys to replicate somebody else. I don't know if he was replicating Cam in practices for the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Like how teams will use one of their practice squad guys to mimic a guy from the other team that they're playing, like a quarterback that they're playing or something. You know what I'm talking about?
How? Yeah, but how would he get COVID from Cam by mimicking him?
No. I'm saying he may have been more involved with their practice for that reason.
You're
You know,
saying so?
I'm just speculating here, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
like he could have been more involved than usual.
Oh,
Like I
you're
don't.
saying so he could have spread it.
Yeah, he could have spread it more because
Oh
maybe he
yeah.
was out there mimicking Cam, for the purposes of the game this week. That's complete speculation. I don't know.
Yeah. Um.
So anyway,
Well. Yeah.
but back to his
Yeah.
question.
Let's. What was it again? Let's see.
It's those running backs. So
I
um,
I think Drake could well, obviously Jonathan Taylor's number one, right? I mean,
I think those two are in some form 1-2. We keep waiting for that breakout week from Drake. The thing is though that they're playing Carolina today or tomorrow.
mhm,
If the
mhm.
Drake breakout week doesn't come this week, I don't know when it's going to come. So even though Jonathan Taylor is, I think, a more integral part of the Colts system there. Not that Drake's not getting the carries, but Kyler just likes to sling it. Kyler can run it. Whereas the Colts have old man Phillip Rivers, and they're going to be handing off a lot. So even though Taylor is a more integral part of that, they're up against tougher defense. I would actually roll the dice on this being Drake's breakout week against the Panthers. I would put Taylor 2, Sanders 3, and then I guess Mixon 4 and Carson 5. And mainly I'm doing that just based on, Chris Carson's a game time decision. It's hard to
Mhm.
really know. Let's see what time. So that's a 1:00 game. So that's the good part is it's a 1:00 game. You'll know if he's going to be in
Yeah.
there. He's playing the Dolphins. Mixon is playing the Jaguars. I'll also put Mixon ahead of him for the reason that the Seahawks could get out to a big lead on the Dolphins. They could use more Carlos Hyde, whereas Mixon, tends to be more. So that's my ranking is Drake, Taylor, Sanders, Mixon, Carson.
Now the Seahawks defense is looking shabby,
I
and
know.
so for them to get out on and the Dolphins defense and offense is looking pretty tight,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. 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 I still, it's not just that. I think
Yeah.
just there's maybe, I don't know. I think I think it's just more likely that they would be more inclined to mix in Hyde more since, he's already been getting a fair amount than the Bengals maybe would with Geo and Mixon. That's just speculation. That's just what I'm going with.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would I'm not going to gamble on Drake. I love him as a player. I think he's really good. He just there's something about the offense this year that they are just not. Well, of course, they've had some really bad matchups, tough matchups, but they're not relying on him as
Yeah.
much as I thought they would. And this is sort of his MO for teams. I don't know what
Mhm.
it is. It
Mhm.
might be something behind, off the field or something, but teams just do not rely on him. It is a good
Well,
matchup, though. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I I'm still not convinced. I mean, he's still getting. You look at the volume he's getting. He's
Mm-hmm.
averaging 18 carries a game. He's had
Mm-hmm.
16, 20, and 18. The trouble is they don't seem to be relying on him near the goal line. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, And again, I haven't really had the chance to watch Cardinals games. I don't know how they've been scoring. I don't know if they've been in the red zone very much.
It's
Or if
what it's been. It's remember how how you don't like Singletary because of Josh Allen getting in.
Mhm.
Well, what's his name? Who's their Murray has been running most of their touchdowns. It's been him just bebopping through and
Yeah,
running from 30 to 20 yards out sometimes.
right. And that's what I was going to say was it seems like because I've got him on, several teams and it seems like he's breaking it in from like 25, 30 yards out. So, I think maybe I just still feel like that's got to sort of start to even out at some point. They've got to start having
To kind
more.
of
Yeah,
yeah,
like just odds are there's going to be more opportunities where they're inside the 5,
yeah,
and more opportunities for Drake. And I don't, and it's not going to be, I don't think like a Kyler. Kyler's not going to be quite like Cam or Josh Allen, where you have to worry as much about him getting those like 2-yard touchdown plunges. I don't think Kyler's, he may still keep it like Russell Wilson style
yeah,
misdirection and then sneak out around and run in the edge of the end zone, but you're not going to have to worry as much about him like trying to bulldoze in. So I still feel like we don't really have a good enough
yeah.
representative sample size of Drake,
I think you're right. I'm going with Drake number one. I think this also might be a big what's his name? So for Jonathan Taylor, I think actually you might see a little dip for him this week as they play a tougher offense. So it might be a closer game. They might even be behind, and this might be a what's his name?
Naheem
Naheem
Hines.
Hines. This might be a Naheem Hines game where they do a lot more, no huddle pass to the, short pass type stuff to get at. Who are they playing again?
They're playing the Bears.
And the Bears have been coming on pretty strong, defense wise and offense. So I don't know. It'll definitely be an interesting game. And so so I'd go Drake, Taylor, Mixon. I am worried about Sanders.
So another update is that
Yeah.
now it sounds like it's going to be Tuesday night football, Chiefs versus Patriots. But the struggle is going to be tomorrow. If you've got guys, going tomorrow, do you play them and hold out for the Chiefs with the possibility that it turns out like the Titans, where we get
Yeah.
another day in, because say Monday you have a bunch of more positive tests come back, and then there's no game. Then unless unless there's someone you can pick up for that Falcons Packers game, and I doubt there is
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
tend to have those people. You're just going to kind of be out of luck. So there's a good chance you're going to have to make the decision of, do I wait on Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek, CEH, or do I put probably what's a much lesser player in to know that I'm going to get those points?
I think with Tyreek, I would not gamble. I'd put somebody else in.
I agree.
And especially with having flexes and stuff like that, you'd be able to flex him in later if you needed to. But with Mahomes, I think I'm rolling with Mahomes. Oh, that feels crazy. But in the sense that you go without. Well, the other thing is, no, that feels really risky. Gosh, like that's my thought was just to roll with Mahomes, but when I said it, and actually, because I have so much Mahomes, I'm gonna have to make this decision.
Yeah,
everywhere.
and and there's a lot of good. I think there's guys that can be good streamers this week. Burrow, Goff. Goff's got the Giants. Burrow's got the Jaguars. And so do you? You could be missing out on 25 points, hoping to get 30 or 35, and then you get nothing. So that's
you're right.
Rough decision.
If I can get Burrow or Stafford, I will put them in.
Right.
But otherwise, I think I'm going to roll with Mahomes because the waiver wire has not looked really. I went to the waiver wire to look for some replacements. I have Cam in a couple places, and Burrow's not there. Stafford's not there.
Yeah,
I'm looking at some Minshew action, and who I went with Fitz Pumpkin, man. I'm hoping this is a Fitz Magic week. It looks like a good matchup, but sometimes he does worse with good matchups.
Yeah, I did that in a league. I did that in our listeners league actually because I picked him up. I spent $2 on him off the waiver wire because they're playing the Seahawks. Ben Roethlisberger is normally my quarterback. And so I picked him up then before we knew because I saw kind of where that looked like that was trending. And so I'm going to roll with it. I think like the good thing is like, I think Tua had something this week where he was out. And so he may not be, he may not be active for the game. He's questionable. Oh, I guess he had an illness. But it's not COVID related. So what scares me about Fitzmagic is what if it's a really bad game? What if they pull him for Tua?
That doesn't scare me as much as just Fitz Pumpkin showing up because I watch him a lot. I love him. He's one of my favorite players to watch, but he's one of my least favorite players because I like him so much. I've played him so much, but he's one of those guys that we've talked about. If you chase points, you will get burned. He has a good game, then he has a terrible game. And it's really hard to figure out when his good games are bad because when you watch him play, you realize why. He's sporadic. Right. He's throwing like crazy. He's running like crazy. And it's hard to tell what it's going to be. Hey, we have somebody joining us right now. He was out on assignment for a little bit, but he's back. It's the kid.
Hey guys.
Hey, Herschel.
He didn't get the blue memo today.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That one's on me. My bad.
We had it coordinated. We had it coordinated last week. Black shirts. This time he was late, and so he came in without the memo.
The memo.
Yep.
Blue and caps. And caps. He doesn't have a cap either. So.
Oh yeah.
Dang. Man, I'm just off today. I show up late. No. I can't get with anything right now.
It's fine. Actually, Drew says we were talking about replacements for all these quarterbacks that may not be playing. And he says Stafford is a great guy to pick up off the waiver wire if he's out there because the Saints corners are out. Oof.
Yep.
Yes. I'm looking at that juicy matchup because people don't really. Well, here's the thing though. They still have a really good defense, and what makes them have a good defense is really good backups. I don't know if that's such a juicy matchup because they might just try to run it all day with Kamara. What do you guys think about playing Stafford this week?
I mean, I think depending on what your other options are, it wouldn't terrify me. I mean, he's, his stat line has been 17.8, 17 points, 17.18, 17.16, and 18.5. Like he's he's not going to bust for you and give you 9 points.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Who
would you rather play? Would you rather play him or Burrow? Because I go with Burrow.
I'd go with Burrow.
What you're saying? I interrupted you there at home.
You're talking to me or AJ?
You, Stafford.
Oh, sorry,
Stafford's
it might have just cut out. Yeah, no, I said Burrow. I would play Burrow. But yeah, no, Stafford is at home. Yeah, he's at home. He's got his weapons. Galladay, Marvin Jones, Hawkinson. But I mean, I think there's just potentially limited upside there. Although, that game against Vegas, Derek Carr threw for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Saints, but still only a little over 21 points because neither one of Stafford and Carr are not going to be running the ball. So, I don't know. I would still go with Burrow against the Jags.
What do you think, AJ, as far as who do you pick up? Let's throw Fitzpatrick in there. Would you do, because I'm looking at this math quest question, would you throw Stafford, Fitzpatrick, or Burrow into the in his quarterback?
Typically in a lot of leagues, I tried to take Stafford as my second quarterback. And
you already have him.
In our listener league. Yeah, I have Stafford in our listener league. He's starting for me. He has been for the last 3 weeks. He's got such a safe floor. And like Jared said, he's got all of his weapons back. If I had to choose Burrow over him, I would, because Jacksonville's defense just got torched by Miami for no reason. But Fitzpatrick, y'all know I'm not a risk taker. I'm not. And Fitzpatrick can throw 5 touchdowns or 5 picks on any given day of the week. So if Burrow's on the list, I'd go Burrow, Stafford, Fitzpatrick. But between the two of them, it's easily Stafford for me.
Easily Stafford. All right. Let's see. One more question, then we're going to talk a little bit. All three of us want to talk about what are takeaways from Thursday night. Kenyon Drake and Robert Woods or Hilaire. Well, obviously, I think I would leave Hilaire bottom of the list at this point. Wait and see. And I don't know. I think I'd go Kenyon Drake. I think but I'll say this. If he doesn't bust out this week, I'm donezo with Drake. I'm almost donezo with him now, but I did look and see. You guys are right. He's had a difficult run. He's played against some pretty stout run defenses. I don't know. There's something feels wonky about him, but that's just a feeling. And you know me, I go on feelings rather than, but Robert Woods, the thing is Robert Woods, he could give you a really high floor. What do you think?
Especially in PPR.
Yeah. So what do you think, AJ? Would you go with Drake or Woods here?
See,
or would you roll with Hilaire?
This is Drake's prove it week for me. So it's almost like I'm starting him just to be like, dude, you've scored me 7 points in almost 4 straight games. And last week was supposed to be your breakout week. So this week you get Carolina. This is your last chance to prove to me that you should be in my starting roster every week. And honestly, it's the trade I made with Ben. I'm liking better and better. If Hilaire's Drake's only going to get 7 and occasionally 15. So for me, this is a prove it week for Drake. Otherwise, I'd be starting Hilaire immediately. But if the Chiefs game is up in the air, then I'm probably waiting, trying to see what the NFL says Sunday morning. And I like Woods because it says Drake and Woods or Hilaire.
Yeah, I don't entirely understand what the question is like.
Yeah. But if it's talking about playing this week, if Hilaire plays, he's still number 1 for me. If he doesn't, it's Drake and Woods. This is prove it week for Drake. This is prove it week for Drake.
Yeah, I just can't go against that Carolina matchup. I mean, last week we talked about Josh Kelly, but Josh Kelly didn't do well against them, but that was because, he I think fumbled and lost carries to Eckler, and then Eckler ended up with 25.8 points against Carolina. So if you are a running back, it is extremely difficult to not go off against the Carolina Panthers.
Mhm.
I'm not betting on any of these players listed here. I'm betting on the Carolina Panthers and how terrible their run defense is. So I still got to go with Drake. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure about the question with it saying Drake and Woods or Hilaire. If
he repeated it with just more question marks. So
okay, so I don't know. So the way the question is phrased, it makes it sound like you could start those two or Hilaire. So I'm not sure how that would work. But if it's those two versus Hilaire, then you go with those two, because I would start Kenyon Drake alone over,
What if this is a trade? Would you trade?
Maybe
would you trade Kenyon Drake and Robert Woods for Hilaire? Ooh, in this, it's hard for me in this environment to. I like two solid horses rather than one, stallion these days.
Yeah. Yeah, especially today when we're being asked that question with everything going on. I mean, that would kind of depend on what the rest of your team looks like. But if you've got pretty solid receivers, I think, it would be hard for me to turn down CEH in the league's best offense. I mean, he turned in a good game against the Ravens defense, Monday night. So if it's a trade, then I would probably do that, as long as you've got a handful of other good receivers.
What do you think, AJ?
Yeah, if you've got an excess of I don't even know. I'm trying to think of what wide receivers who haven't been injured right now. But I like Evans or Galladay or even stinking DJ Moore maybe at this point, even though Robert Wood's been more consistent than all of them. Yeah, you could probably take a chance on Hilaire. His schedule is literally completely up and down. It's either a terrible matchup or great matchup, but he's got such a safe running floor right now that I'd probably make that trade if I have good wide receivers and I have a hole at running back, because Drake... I'm on my last straw with Drake this year.
I'm telling you, something feels wonky. All right. And Thomas H. can't join us today. He's at work. Man, working on a Saturday.
That's
good,
rough.
Good on you. He's I love that picture. Yeah. Any news? I see you looking at the
news. It was COVID news, but it was related to the president, not sports. So
how's he doing? Anything?
I mean, well, you don't know. I mean, I think they had a presser that made it sound like pretty cheery, and then but then there's a tweet from the White House producer from CBS News that says that they're actually being told that his vitals have been pretty concerning, and it's like, I don't know, I mean, like, basically it's just like, we've got to wait and see how this goes. I mean, like, not that he's in any imminent danger, but
right. Well, and it's like COVID is the sort of thing where you just have to wait and see. It progresses. Right. It doesn't just come on you. Boop, boop. Yeah. Crazy times we live in. Let's talk about something a little less crazy. Or is it? Thursday night's game was actually an interesting game. I enjoyed it, and it was good for fantasy. I actually had what's the kicker's name? Denver.
Ficken. Oh no, Denver, for Denver, McManus.
No, for Denver. For Denver, I had McManus in a lot of, and now Ficken, he did really good too, right?
Yeah.
And
let's see. McManus had 18, and I think
18.
Let's see, Ficken had they both had 18. So if you had either one of those kickers, you were doing very well.
Yeah, and so I'm starting off doing all right, and luckily it's in the league where I don't have. It's my one league where I followed your guys' advice and took old Henry, oh sweet little Henry. Well, what do you guys think? What is your takeaway from Thursday night's game? Did you guys watch any of it?
I did, yeah. I watched
Mhm.
most of it. Let's see. So I guess one of my takeaways would be it's going to be tough to trust probably anybody in those offenses, maybe outside of Jamison Crowder. Melvin Gordon had a good game. I started him in every league except one where I had like 3 stud running backs, and he was my fourth.
Nice.
He got that late touchdown, which kind of pushed him from having a solid day of like 14 points or so to like 25 or whatever it was.
24, I think. Yeah,
24. Yeah, 24 or something maybe. But like with the Broncos passing situation, I don't think that their quarterback situation is going to be reliable. Judy actually ended up having a good point game, but it was because he caught like a 50-yard touchdown.
And it was such a crazy catch. It wasn't even a catch. It was pull it out of his hands type.
Yeah, that Pierre Desir should have intercepted. So I didn't start Judy because I thought, like on the road, he's a rookie, quarterback's young. I just don't trust this. And so I hate that I missed out on those points. But like, outside of that big catch, like, that was just sort of a fluke catch. And so I don't feel great about those offenses going forward because Philip Lindsay's about to come back. He's about to pull some carries away from Melvin Gordon. Jamison Crowder is the one guy that I would feel pretty good about because he's about all the Jets have to move the ball. They can't run the ball. They can't really throw it downfield. And so he's just like finding space and getting 10 catches a game. So that would be my takeaway is I don't feel good about those offenses. If there's a defense that you can start against one of them and stream against one of them on a week-to-week basis, it seems like those, especially the Jets, maybe, because the Broncos might get a little bit better when what's his name, Drew Lock comes back.
A lot.
Drew Lock, yeah. But the Jets, I think the Jets are pretty much just going to be what they are now for the rest of the season.
They ended up being a pretty good defense to stream. I got, I think, 18 points out of them. So
out of the Jets?
No way.
I think it was 8.
14?
I think it was
No.
8.
No. Was it?
Well, it was 8.
It
was 8 in Yahoo leagues because they got a touchdown and they got 3 INTs, but they also gave up 37 points. So
that's true. Yeah. So was it 8? Yeah, 8.
It was 8.
At one point, it was like 14, but then that touchdown by what's his name? But it's still pretty good.
Yeah,
8 points. And I think out by 8 points out of Denver, right?
I think Denver was 6.
It was 6.
Yeah.
6.
They didn't give up
Still
as many
solid.
points, but they didn't have a defensive touchdown. So
yeah. All right, let's see. AJ, what was your takeaway?
I hate the Jets.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't this is hard to say. I don't hate the Jets because like I hate them like I do my rivals or whatever. But they're so mediocre. And it's like watching the game. Gordon got good fantasy points and Brett Rippon was slinging the ball all around the field, and the Jets actually scored more than 28 points or more than 27 points in the game. But mentally, I know this isn't going to happen again. They're not getting another prime matchup unless they play the Giants. I need to relook at their schedule. But this isn't really going to happen again because Jets don't have the easiest division to play in. So it doesn't really make... I was happy Gordon got me 25 in 2 leagues. I was happy about that. My investment in Gordon's finally starting to pay off just a little bit. So that was nice. Fant getting injured stunk. But other than that, I have, I think, a total of 0 Jets in any of my leagues, period. No kickers, no defenses, no nothing, just because their offense is so dysfunctional. And they were able to tear up a Broncos defense without Miller. And I mean, it was a fun game to watch, but I just know that it's not gonna last.
I didn't think their offense looked too bad, actually. I thought Sam did pretty good. He just didn't. Their offensive line is their big. I don't know why they didn't do more to shore up their offensive line, because
they drafted, didn't they draft Mekhi Becton, if I remember, out of Louisville in the draft? But that's like putting, I don't even know, duct tape on a broken fish.
They needed to do more as far as trading and getting some more seasoned offensive line guys on there, because it was a sieve again.
Well, and we've talked about how, or I think you've talked about how it just takes a while too. Like, even if you get good offensive linemen, it's a unit that like your receivers don't necessarily have to work well together. They don't all have to be on the same page doing the right thing. But your offensive line has to be on the same page in terms of blocking. It's a cohesive unit. And so even if, even drafting a guy and things like that, it would take, it would take a while for them to kind of gel together. So
it's true. All right. Well, let's go to the chat because it's blowing up. We have, let's see. Thanks for joining us. Watkins or Slayton PPR? Well, at this point, I'd go with Slayton because we don't know what's happening with Watson at this point.
Yep.
Watkins at this point. Drew asks Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, or Darrell Henderson.
Ooh.
Pick two. I think I go with Singletary and Darrell Henderson, but they're my babies, so maybe that's just bias. What do you guys think? Go with you, Jared.
I mean, for me, I think it kind of depends on whether or not Zach Moss plays for the Bills.
Yep.
He's questionable right now. I haven't seen anything that seemed to lean one way or another. So if he plays, that limits Singletary's upside. If he's out, if Moss is out, I would go Singletary and Henderson. If Moss is in, I would go Henderson and Sanders.
I mean, don't you have the same problem with Sanders and Scott vulturing goal line?
No, not to the. I mean, like you look at Singletary's line over the first 2 weeks while Moss was in there. Singletary got 9 carries and 10 carries in each of those first 2 games. Sanders, of course, he missed week 1. In his 2 games that he's been back, he's had 20 carries and 18 carries, and a touchdown in that Rams game. So it's not quite. Scott's going to get some carries, but it's not quite the same thing. And you also don't have Carson Wentz vulturing scores at the goal line the way Josh Allen does.
You don't have Carson Wentz vulturing anything at this point.
That's right. You don't have to worry as much about Carson Wentz scoring in any way, shape, or form.
Poor guy. He's got Ward out there. Who else does he have to throw to other than Ward and
there was
what's his name? Not Eifert. Ertz.
There was a report, or it wasn't a report really. It was just like a little note from practice that at one of the Eagles practices this week, I don't know if it's the Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice, or what. Ward was the only healthy receiver that they had out there. I mean, like the only receiver that they had out there. So I don't even know what they did there. But I did see that. Yeah. So Greg Ward could get like an insane amount of targets, but then I could also see it being like something where he has like 1 catch on 11 targets or something, So.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, AJ? How do you stack these up?
Henderson's the easiest one for me, which makes me worried for Goff owners this week, if any people are playing him. But I like Henderson a lot. Singletary and Sanders, 49ers, I'm still not 100% sure how they're going to play without Bosa and Thomas, because their last matchup was the Giants and Devontae Freeman on 1 day of work. So I don't know how I feel entirely about Sanders against him. And for the record, can I say the 49ers just got the easiest schedule in the league to start off with? Like their first 5 games were pretty. But anyway, I'd probably go Singletary, especially if Moss is out. Either way, playing Vegas, terrible run defense. I think I might go Singletary because I'm just scared that Sanders is going to get run over because the Eagles have no offense.
Yeah, he's like Sanders is done for. I mean, they haven't had the toughest opponents with. I mean, the Rams are solid, and then Cincinnati's defense is obviously not good. But I've at least been encouraged that Miles Sanders has gotten exactly 95 rushing yards in each of the first 2 games, despite the Eagles offense being as bad as what it is. So that at least makes things a little bit better. And it's going to be tough because it's going to be a tough little stretch for him because he's got this game, which isn't terribly, it's not like playing the 49ers defense with that, defensive line in there. But still not ideal. Then he's got Pittsburgh. Then he's got Baltimore. That's a tough little stretch. And then after that, it clears up with the Giants, Dallas Giants, Cleveland, Seahawks, Packers. So this is a tough little stretch for Miles Sanders. But maybe, a few weeks from now or a couple of weeks from now, he might be a good buy low candidate on trade.
Yeah, if he has a couple tough games, he would be, because I could see people already feeling a little iffy about him. What do you think about this? Sarah, thank you for joining us. Sarah Riley, hope you're still watching so we can get to your question. If Carson is out, would you flex Landry? Would you flex Ingram? John Brown?
Brown for me.
I think I'd John Brown, and he may be a little hobbled himself. I think
he's okay.
Definitely. Is he okay?
He was banged up, but he doesn't have a tag. No.
I think I'd definitely go Ingram, but I like Ingram. I think he's the go-to guy there in what he is.
I want to have a rant. I want to have a rant on.
Hey, you do have that 1 minute rant saved. Remember, you have that 1 minute rant saved for like 6 months.
Well, okay, let's do that. But I don't want the full screen. But let's just do it right now. Is be careful with Judah Buddha's advice about who he trusts on running backs here, because he has been so skeptical of so many good players. I've even lost count now. But I mean, just Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, all of these guys, like, they're just not producing enough. Meanwhile, he has stayed on the Mark Ingram bandwagon, despite the fact that Mark Ingram got a season high 10 carries in week 1, and his carries have gone down each of the 2 following weeks. He got 9 carries in week 2. He got 7 carries in week 3. So in 2 of those 3 weeks, he has had single digit carries. And then in the other one, he got double digit by 1. And he's had 3 points or less in 2 of those 3 weeks. He's being rotated in and out with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins. Then you've got Lamar Jackson, vulturing goal line carries. And yet, in spite of all that, he is still in on Mark Ingram, despite being out on so many better running backs who are doing well and getting the carries, but just not getting touchdowns. Be careful if you trust that man's advice on running backs.
I hear you. And I also look, Kenyon Drake versus Ingram. I feel better about. That's not this question right now, but just thinking about. I mean, in response to your rant, I feel better about putting Ingram in there.
Why? This is.
Why not?
Are you analyzing your feelings again? Is this where this is coming from?
Just here's the reason why. This week he's bound to get. This has got to be a bounce back for
Does
the Ravens, right? I think
Does
so.
it? I mean, for the
definitely think so.
Ravens,
Yeah,
yes.
for the Ravens.
For Mark
And
Ingram, maybe not.
maybe not, but maybe. I think this is going to be a big week for Mark Ingram. Absolutely. Because I think as far as leadership and, having your main guys lead the team, I don't think they're going to make big changes after last week. I think they're going to stick with their main guys, and I think that Ingram is the leader there, one of the leaders there. Him and Lamar are the leaders in for the Ravens. I think it's going to be up to them to carry the team. After a big loss, I think they're going to have a huge bounce back, both of them.
The crazy thing to me is that, Ingram really isn't being used as the goal line back. In at least 2 of those 3 games, he hasn't been used as the goal line back. You would think, like with his body style, that he would be. The irony of it is he's been used more as like the most reliable pass catching back. Although in 2 of those 3 games, he hasn't caught a pass. Week 1, he wasn't targeted. Week 3, he was targeted once and didn't catch it. Week 2, his best week against Houston, he had 55 rushing yards and a touchdown, and he had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 22 yards. But that really is the killer for me with Ingram. I could even see him as a flex if he was reliably getting the goal line carries, if he was the goal line back, but you can't count on him for that. So to me, he has apart from being sort of the pass catching back, he has no defined role, and they're not passing to the running backs that much. So
they haven't. I don't know that isn't going to change. We'll see, because Lamar needs someone other than Mark Andrews to pass to for the short distance, for the slot type short distance pass. He did not have a lot to bail him out last week, and I think he's going to need that to establish sort of a short, what do you call that, or like a check down type rhythm that isn't Mark Andrews, because I think they showed last week, you shut Mark Andrews down, you shut Lamar down as far as the passing game goes. So I don't know. I think that now, granted, you're right. It's more of a my guy type of thing with Ingram. It's not based much in anything I've seen as far as stats, but stats change. Just past stats are poor indicator of future results. That's my defense. Now, I grant it. He has been a huge disappointment. I just think he's due for a big bounce back. It's somebody who has a nose for the end zone and is trusted by the team. He gets the majority of the early snaps. Now, granted, they do bring in a lot of Gus Bus and my man JK. But until JK breaks out, I think he's just going to be the early down guy who he could break a big one for you. Now, does that mean I would play him over? Let's look at that question again. Where's Sarah? Okay. Where did JK go? I mean, AJ go.
I don't know. Oh, there he is.
Oh, he flashed there for a minute. Are you not going to join us?
I'm just waiting for y'all to finish your very interesting debate about Ingram right now. Honestly, this should have been the debate this week, honestly, about Mark Ingram. I don't know why it wasn't you guys. So I was just waiting for y'all to finish that.
What do you guys think for Sarah's question? Landry, Ingram, and Brown are guys that are hard. This is half point PPR. All of them hard to trust. John Brown maybe the least, but I do worry about him being a little banged up and this being a huge Diggs week. Who are they playing?
Raiders.
Yeah, I definitely don't trust Landry, but then again, they are going to him more than they're going to, aren't they? Or at least last game he had like what, 9 targets? Or am I misremembering?
No, Landry's only had like 4 or 5 targets, and like he had 6 targets in week 1, 3 in week 2, 4 in week 3. Apart from that 61-yard game in week 1, it's been 46 and 36. The Browns are just running the ball. This is an easy John Brown for me. 16 points in each of the first 2 weeks. He had like 80 yards and 70 yards the following week and a touchdown. Last week he didn't do anything, but last week he was hurt. I'm gonna just chalk it up to that, and unless I get proven otherwise here, with the way the other 2 guys are just getting limited touches, I would roll the dice on Brown and hope that last week was a fluke.
What do you think, AJ?
Easiest John Brown play of my life. Look, Landry, like I've said, he never catches.
Love how you guys have come to my side on John Brown all of a sudden, but that's okay.
We've flip-flopped sides from last year, where last year, we were in on Calvin Ridley, and exactly. Then you were like, no, John Brown's where it's at. So anyway.
Yeah. Look, no. See, this isn't even more about John Brown, unless it's more about how I don't like the other 2. Landry does not catch his touchdowns till after week 8. The only reason he's in the consideration for this is because he's playing Dallas this week. So I get the possibility of a touchdown pass. Ingram, nowhere near enough yards. And while he seems like his ceiling's like going to be 15 points right now. And John Brown, definition of touchdown dependent, but also the definition of James Jones, meaning, yes, he will catch a touchdown every single game. So I'd go with John Brown here. I like the Bills. I like how, what's his name? Allen's they're just letting him air it out right now. Yeah. So I would go John Brown and Buffalo because I just do not like the other 2 right now.
All right, moving on. Stephen Drake says Cam has COVID. Afraid so. Well, he tested positive. That doesn't mean he has COVID. It just means he tested positive. And yeah,
I was just going to say, like, Andy Behrens, the Yahoo analyst, saying that basically, like, I think kind of taking some of our approach, but maybe a little more extreme version of our approach. He said he's setting this lineup. He's setting his lineups at this point as if, the Chiefs-Patriots game won't get played. Right. And I think you kind of do have to do that. Wait, tomorrow and maybe see, hopefully that get some news before the 1:00 games. But yeah,
I think since fantasy is such a cash cow, especially this year for the NFL, they're going to keep in consideration. I think they'll let us know tomorrow, right?
Probably.
I think we'll know by tomorrow.
I think they'll update it tomorrow. And I think most likely, if there are other positive cases, they'll know tomorrow. I think there's also a possibility that there's not another positive case tomorrow, and then they're like, okay, we're going to play it Monday or Tuesday, and then you get more on Monday or something. So I wouldn't take that as as the gospel.
How crazy would it be if they found out Cam was a false positive and he plays? And that would be interesting. You remember all those false positive cases we had? What was it? Basketball, or was it?
I don't remember.
I don't know what sport that was.
I don't remember what it was now, but yeah, we did have. Oh no! It was the NFL. It was where Matthew Stafford had a false positive because his wife was talking about, like, she would go to the grocery store and they knew, I guess, at that point that it was false positive or whatever, but the NFL hadn't put that information out. And then people, were just like, why are you endangering our lives?
No, but there was a whole rash of false positives that came out right as the season started. And it was like this one clinic or something. And it just had all these false positives. I can't remember if it was NFL or NBA.
I think that was I think that was all connected to what I'm talking about, but I could be
Was it?
wrong. I could be wrong.
Okay, it
I
could
don't
be.
know. Either way,
Yeah.
we've established that there can be false positives. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So, Steve, thanks for joining us again, Steven. Steven says, would you play Gurley or Hunt full PPR? Now, Hunt is dealing with a little bit of a banged up groin. So, it's a little iffy for him. I'm definitely plugging and playing Gurley. What do you guys think?
Want to go, AJ?
Sure. I'll go Gurley here. This is a little bit like Drake in the sense that this is kind of a prove it week for me because we were coughing up 5th and 4th round picks to get Gurley this year. So this is kind of a little bit like I need a little more consistent production from you. And it's also kind of just to see if Brian Hill's just going to keep vulturing yards, but they're playing the Packers, and I still don't know what to think about their run defense because some of their points have been a little bit inflated because Alvin Kamara is literally just the Saints offense at this point. So I would go Gurley here, especially if Baker Mayfield airs it out. And I don't trust the Browns that much. I like Hunt as a flex, but if you've got Gurley, I would go Gurley here.
What do you think, Jared?
I really don't want to go with Gurley in a shootout game where the Falcons could maybe get behind. He's not really catching that many passes, but yeah, the fact that Kareem Hunt has been kind of banged up. I was just about to look and see if there's a most recent update on Kareem Hunt. I want to play Hunt. I feel better about Hunt in that Dallas game. I think they're Dallas is going to be able to put up points, and they're probably going to have to throw the ball some, to the running backs, which may involve Hunt more. It's really hard to get a sense on Hunt's injury because it says, Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot reported that Hunt's injury isn't believed to be serious. And oh, that's good. And that he will try to play Sunday. Well, okay. You just kind of set me up there and then you just crushed it all. So,
yeah. What does that mean? So sometimes I think that means hey, you don't have to worry, Browns fans. We still have a good running back for the rest of the year. But fantasy fans might not play this week.
Maybe so. I would probably wait to see what they say about Hunt prior to that game, and then potentially, if it sounds good, then maybe. Oh gosh, I don't know. Maybe Gurley is the safer play. It just scares me because he's not really catching the ball so far, and I feel like they're probably going to get behind in that Packers game. They may go with some more Brian Hill, and but I guess Gurley is the safer play. I'll say Gurley.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Rory's. We have a lot of new viewers today, which is great. Rory's mindset. Rory's mindset.
Rory's mindset, I believe.
Rory's mindset. I got you. Rory's mindset. Should I start Darrell Henderson or David Montgomery? I like Henderson a lot. And David Montgomery. Now, you know what this could be. I want to remind you guys who mentioned a little guy named, can't remember his name, Cordell Patterson.
Cordero. Okay.
What? Cordero?
Cordero.
You know what it is I personally know a Cordero Patterson, and so that's why I always get it mixed up. Cordell Patterson?
Just pronounce it however you want.
Is it Adele? Is it Adele, or is that a singer? I don't even. Who knows at this point?
Patterson, this could be a breakout week for him. So, with what is his name? Not Tyreek. Is it Tyreek Cohen? Tariq Cohen being out. Yeah. With Tariq Cohen being out the rest of the season, I think, right? With ACL. ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're looking at, unless they pick somebody up. I'm watching it, and so far they haven't even worked anybody out. So we might be looking at a
Lamar
Cordell.
Miller. We signed Lamar Miller to the practice squad.
Lamar Miller. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. He doesn't seem to be in shape or something though. So he's getting signed by everybody and dropped by everybody.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
easy. Go ahead. Sorry.
Huh? Easy Henderson.
Yeah, for me.
Mm-hmm.
What if Cam comes back this week? Cam.
Akers. No, he's out.
Mm-mm.
No?
He's
Out for sure.
Ruled out. Yep.
Oh, he's already been ruled out. Then yeah, I think it's Easy Daryl Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got me second guessing everybody's name. Darrell Henderson. What do you think, AJ?
Errol.
Errol. Yeah, I'd go Errol in this scenario. I mean, Montgomery has a ceiling for sure, it seems like, and it's somewhere between 15 to 19. And Darrell Henderson is one of the best matchups you could possibly ask for this week. I'd go Henderson.
Love hearing you guys talk about my guy, Darrell Henderson. But let's keep going. Sam says, I was literally waiting for this. Oh,
nice.
For the COVID stuff. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be rejoicing.
Oh, I thought he was. Oh, yeah, Sam. I thought for a second you meant you've been like waiting for our podcast all morning long.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was.
He probably means COVID.
Clarify, Sam. Clarify for us, Karen. What's his name? Sam. Cam has COVID. Game is 10. Yeah. We've been positive. I mean, we've been positive. We've been talking about it. Oh man,
we are positive that Cam is positive. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know if we're positive about that. But Sam said, "Oh, so he is starting to kill Harry for flex over White, Anderson, Ayuk, and Higgins." Well, obviously, I'd steer away from N'Keal Harry anyways. Is he talking about James White?
I think so. I don't really know any fantasy.
Is James? Oh yeah,
White
Anderson. I'd fire up some Anderson and Ayuk. Wouldn't you guys?
Yeah, I don't. Well, okay. So White. Wait. So N'Keal Harry and White, we don't. You know, they may not be playing. So, I would probably start Anderson. I would definitely start Anderson, and I think maybe the other one would be. See, the thing is, Kittle's back this week, and Debo. Debo, I think, is back this week
too.
So I would actually go Anderson and Higgins.
Interesting. Could it be though that getting Kittle and what's his name, Samuels? Back.
Debo Samuel.
Yeah,
Debo Samuels.
Samuel. No.
Could it be that getting? Oh,
yeah.
Could it be that getting Ayuk and Debo back could help Ayuk in the sense that he would have less defense on him, and Samuel is not going to be 100%.
In that scenario, he also might get less targets, though. He might get less people covering him, but at the same time, he's probably not going to get the 8 targets he got last week if you're getting Debo and Kittle back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and man.
What do you think, AJ?
Higgins probably for me. Burrow's airing it out 40 times a game. James White's just coming back from a lot of stuff. Ayuk is... especially with Debo and Kittle back. And no, Robbie Anderson, I never been a fan of Robbie Anderson. Never been a fan of Robbie Anderson. And his targets and points, and it's all like this.
I don't know. He's had pretty consistent targets this year, and they're using him.
He went from 9? I think it was like 8 to 10 to 5, if I remember correctly. I think 8, 10, 5. Those were his targets. 8, 10, and then 5, which I mean isn't bad. Yeah. But they keep dumping it off to Mike Davis, which I mean works for me because I've got him in like 3 different leagues. But I'd go Higgins because I think Burrow hit him. He's going for him 9 times. I think I'd go Higgins here.
And I think too, maybe we should point out, like, Robbie Anderson. You want a guy getting targets, but with him being a deep ball receiver, it's a little bit less worrisome because he still picks up a lot of yards. And the past 2 weeks they've played. Well, at least the Chargers secondary is good. Tampa is just kind of a good overall defense, but he still had 109 yards. So the Chargers secondary was probably the best one that they played. They won that game, so they didn't. The other two they lost and they were trailing a little bit more, so they had to throw more. You got to think Arizona's going to put up points on them. They're probably going to be throwing. So yeah, I still feel pretty good about Robbie Anderson.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Robbie, Rob says, "What's good, fellas? What's good?" All right. Todd says, "I would pivot off Harry without Cam. Yeah, for sure. Even if they play, he likes Ayuk, and Higgins. Interesting." Allied Rival says, "What's up? What's up?" That's Cademan, right?
Yeah.
Because you and Cademan make up the Allied. Check out the Allied Rivals. Go to YouTube, search for Allied Rivals, and they come up pretty top of the search. He says, "Do you start Allen Robinson or Keenan Allen?" Ooh, got the Allen questions in here. Are we expecting Allen Robinson to become a pumpkin at some point, or do we trust him going forward? And Keenan Allen, do we trust what he got last week as far as an outrageous amount of targets? What do you guys think? Jared, you're nodding your head. What do you think?
AJ sounded like he was about to go.
AJ,
so
you were about to go.
I jump in a lot, and so let him go.
See, I'm going to be honest. I love both of these guys for the rest of the year. Herbert's hitting Allen all the time. Foles was hitting Robinson, and also Jimmy Graham in the red zone a bunch, which helps a lot because Trubisky just kind of threw the ball to whoever, and nobody was getting consistent targets there. But I would go Allen Robinson this week primarily because, look, Indy's defense is good, but Allen's got Tampa, and I don't know how that pass rush is going to shake up Herbert because they're one of the tougher defenses to play. So I would go Robinson here. I would start him over Allen, despite the fact that he got 19 targets last week. But that's probably one of those, hey, Aaron Jones just scored 45 points. He's obviously not going to do that again. He's not going to get 22 targets this week. But I think a full game of Nick Foles and Allen Robinson, yeah, I'd like a little bit of that. I go Allen this week.
To me, they're sort of in similar situations where they both have sort of a quarterback controversy. We don't know who's going to be their quarterback for the rest of the season. Nick Foles is in right now over Trubisky. We know Trubisky is a trash can. Nick Foles, you never know what you're going to get. Nick Foles will have periods of like Hall of Fame greatness, and then he will have periods where he can't beat out Minshew or Mitch Trubisky.
See, here's the thing, Jared. He has to come off the bench to unlock the Nick potential. That's what you have to do with him.
Nick Foles is like an unlockable character in a video game or something. Yeah. When
like
you
Madden, win a game with your backup quarterback.
Yeah. When you level up, you get access to Hall of Fame Nick Foles.
Yes.
It's like alternate costume version of characters or something. Anyway, with the Chargers, you've got Justin Herbert, who had to start for Tyrod before, the Chargers really wanted him to. Are they going to go back to Tyrod, when he comes back? I don't know. You look at the contract they signed Keenan Allen to, though, and I mean, I think he's, one of the top paid receivers now. He's not going to get 19 targets every week, but he got 8 targets week 1 and 10 targets week 2. The only thing that kind of scares me about, I guess, Robinson this week is the Colts defense has been pretty good against kind of the number one downfield receivers. It's a little bit tougher to say because they were playing Jacksonville, where Jacksonville's spread the ball around a whole lot. Then they played the Vikings. They did a good job on Thielen for the most part, even though he still got a no, he didn't get a touchdown.
I remember that game.
Yeah. So they haven't played the best offenses because they've played Jacksonville, they've played Minnesota, they've played the Jets. So it's hard to tell. But the Bears aren't the best either. I would actually kind of maybe lean to Keenan Allen a little bit, but I think it's it's almost a coin flip for me.
And one other thing you do have to remember in this is that what's his name? Ryan N keeps bringing this up. Tampa Bay's run defense is good, so they might stuff Eckler, and Herbert might be forced to throw it 50 times this game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although Eckler, they're getting him out in space quite a bit, and Herbert throws a lot better to his running backs than Tyrod did. So let's see. Todd Eldridge says, "Can you start both?"
Honestly, yeah.
And then he says, "Oh," and then Nathan Anderson says, "Hello, AJ.
What's up, man?"
And Sam says, "I see you with Ayuk, but Kittle and RBs can dominate versus the Eagles, Maybe. Yeah, maybe. It's hard to tell what the Eagles are going to look like defensively, but they typically have a pretty stout defense against the run and tight ends, from what I remember. It's their secondary that's banged up and dead as far as not being able to stop anybody. I thought, but that I'm not positive about that. Maybe you guys could check that.
Well, they played Washington week 1, so take what you will out of that. Then they let Darrell Henderson rush for a touchdown and 81 yards in week 2. Then they played the Bengals, who have a garbage offensive line. So, I mean,
it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Hard to tell. Okay, let's see.
Sam and Todd have been discussing this question for the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got a ton of comments. We may have to kind of
we're gonna go on
questions. Yeah.
Ray Gibson, Fuller or Gallup PPR? I think it's going to be a round of Gallup, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's actually a little tougher for me, I think. Those first couple of weeks, Gallup just didn't get the targets, 5 targets each game, 50 yards. Last week he blew up. Fuller, you never know week to week, I guess I would go Gallup just because Will Fuller is always a danger of pulling his hamstring and leaving the game and giving you 0 points. If I knew Fuller was healthy and going to be in and playing, that would be more attractive because, I think he's more of the number one option in that offense, whereas Gallup is down the line a little bit. But I guess health makes the difference, and I'd say Gallup's the safer play.
What do you think, AJ? I think I know what you're going to
say. Do I really have to choose? This is not a happy medium with me here on this question because Fuller, I said you would get him for one. What I said you'd get him for 1.25 weeks, and guess what? He got injured in week 2. I was laughing so hard. He's back this week. He's got a safe floor of 11, and then I have none of Gallup because I thought he was being taken too high. Dak could go to Cooper or CD or Gallup on any given day. Maybe last week was Gallup's game, and this week is Amari Cooper's game against Cleveland and their weakish back line. I don't know. I'd probably go Gallup because there's a 70% chance Fuller doesn't make it past the second quarter. It's like I'm thinking, if Fuller was healthy, that hasn't happened. So Gallup because I don't trust Fuller's Fuller's ability to stay healthy at all.
It's a tenuous round of Gallup. All right. Good morning, fellas, from Ben. Hey, buddy.
What's up, man?
Glad to have you last week, and good to see you in the chat. Drew says, what do you guys think of Buffalo DST this week? I think they're kind of a fire them up, no matter who they're playing. Although they're not
They have
very.
not been doing well so far this year.
No, they haven't. And the truth is they're not a real. They're a real good real life defense. But they're not the kind of DST that blows up for fantasy. What do you guys think?
I'm trying to even wonder if they're a good real life defense because they let up 28 to Miami and 32 to the Rams.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. They're better talent wise, I think, than what they've shown. But yeah,
who are they playing?
Vegas.
Is it Vegas? Yeah. I mean, I'm starting them in one league. Just see what they get, and then maybe I say start him this week. Maybe get a better feel for him because this year it's just I don't know.
See, it's kind of a rough week for DSTs.
Yeah,
for me, I was going with stupid Chiefs everywhere, and then I was really excited that Cam wasn't playing. I was thinking, ooh, get some Hoyer. And now it's hard to tell.
Yeah, that just reminded me, like, out of all those guys that I have, like Kelsey, mainly Kelsey and CEH. I only have a couple shares of Mahomes. I don't have Tyreek anywhere. I was thinking, like, I got to go switch those out or figure out another solution. And then I forgot about the Chiefs defense. Like, oh crap. Yeah, I've got a couple of those in places too. Not many. Too,
yes.
I don't have much of him either. I think I've only got, let's see, I've only got like one or two shares of him, but I picked up, what's his name? Or I picked up the Chiefs defense,
Yeah. They were on the waiver wire everywhere. Remember I said it and AJ was like, how could they be on the waiver wire? I think people were kind of worried about facing the Patriots, but it's interesting. I went and sat Cam everywhere and fired up the Patriots because I was thinking, how's Cam going to do better than Lamar?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, AJ?
Well, I just want to say in relation to Drew's question, Todd did bring up a good point. Buffalo gets Josh Norman back this week. He'd been out for a little bit, so that is helpful. He also said the schedule opens up a bit after this week. I don't know if I agree with that. They get Kansas City, New England, and Seattle in 3 out of 4 weeks with only the Jets to spell them. So they get some awesome matchups, but then they also get some absolutely terrible matchups. So maybe they're a stash, but I mean, honestly, people might just not pick them up because they're going to be playing such good teams. Wake up at 1 a.m. on Wednesday night and snag them once they play the Jets before anyone else does.
Interesting stuff. Is there an alternative DST that you guys see on the waiver wire that might be a sweet little pickup this week? Because asking for a friend who does not want to keep, of all the players, I don't want to take a chance on. The Chiefs DST is not somebody I'm gonna roll a dice with, So what do you guys think?
I think the funny part is, like, it's almost gotten down to the point where I would have to think hard about starting some of them, thinking, like, would they give me negative points? Like, would it just be better to just not put a defense in there? Yep. I mean, like, you look at a lot of these matchups and some of these teams that are, are getting like -2 or 0 or something like that. And you're just like, gosh, why? I don't know.
Aren't you glad our league doesn't have defenses or kickers? I said COVID is going to make defenses and kickers a nightmare.
I kind of like the challenge of it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But no, I don't like it. What about Los Angeles Chargers?
You
You wouldn't fire them up against TB?
No, I wouldn't. Brady's starting to get into midseason form little by little, and Evans is becoming a red zone target. I wouldn't.
It's kind of tough. Like Godwin's out, Rojo's out, so
Rojo's out?
Rojo's
No,
out?
no, I'm sorry, Fournette.
Oh, okay.
Fournette's out.
What? Yeah, Fournette's out. Yeah.
Fournette's out. I don't. They're not someone that I would like be eager to start, really.
Okay. Well, let's go. So Drew was talking about just move to Monday or Tuesday. We'll see how that goes. Full PPR is from Ben. Full PPR and a pickle this week for my RB2 J.K. Dobbins or Cordero Patterson. Fire up the Cordero Patterson bus. Wait, I don't think you can play him in your running back slot, though. Is the problem with that?
Maybe if it's like ESPN fantasy, maybe they designate him as wide receiver running back.
Yeah, but I probably have to assume for right now that it's he has to.
He's wide receiver, right?
Yeah,
they could have changed it.
They haven't in Yahoo. They haven't.
Oh, okay. But you can play him in the he's probably talking about flex anyways. Oh no, he's saying RB2 for his RB2. So maybe you put somebody else in RB2 and flex Cordero.
Well, if he's wondering for Cordero and Dobbins for RB2, I don't know if he has anybody else.
That's true.
I would go Cordero out of necessity because Dobbins isn't getting enough carries for me to validate him as an actual stardom. Plus, Washington's front seven is their best part of their defense, their entire team, honestly, not including Terry at this point. Cordero, if the Bears start being tricky again, then yeah, Cordero could work out. I don't know how much of Cohen's role he's actually going to fill. But I go Cordero just because Dobbins has not gotten really anything yet. He's really a stash at best at this point.
Well, he's getting some play.
He's only getting I think 2 carries a game now. He's getting passing downs, but he's not running the ball.
Oh, interesting. He updated to say that.
Yep. There you go.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I'd fire him up. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, I don't really love either one of those, but yeah, I would say Patterson. Patterson, I guess, out of those two.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at your waiver wire, are there any running backs that you think would be somebody that you could pick up off the waiver wire to be better than these guys? I actually think Cordell is going to have a great game, but and who knows, man? I think the thing is who's the other running back there? What's his name? In the Bears running back? I can't remember. Yeah, Montgomery. Thing is about Montgomery is he gets banged up all the time. It could easily be the Cordero Patterson show the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not saying that is the case or that that's going to happen, but I could easily see a scenario where that script gets played out.
Yeah.
What do you so I'm looking at the waiver wire now, and there aren't many options, of course, for running back.
If Devontae Freeman's out there, maybe pick up him and pray.
You know who I do?
There's really no
Burkhead.
one.
Play Burkhead if he's out on the waiver wire.
Burkhead's in the KC game, though. KC,
right.
New England, and James White's back this week.
Yeah.
That's, boy.
I don't know.
So there's one guy, and I don't know if he's available in your leagues. He's available in some of mine. Is Adrian Peterson? He's 60% rostered.
That's it.
Yeah, you would think it would be more. He's just not been getting touchdowns. He's getting the carries. 14. It's still been sort of 14 carries against Chicago, 7 against Green Bay because they were trailing big in that game, and then 22 against Arizona. it's hard. How's that New Orleans game going to go? New Orleans could jump up big on them. But I don't know. I mean, you might be in a pinch and he's out there and he's at least a starting running back. Maybe you hope that he gets a goal line carry or something.
It says here that he's got McCoy, Chase Edmonds, Duke Johnson, Jamal Williams, and Brian Hill.
I might play McCoy. I might play McCoy with Fournette being out, like already for sure out. McCoy's going to get some play.
He's been getting passing down plays. Like he's amassed, I think 12 targets in 3 games and 1 rush attempt. Out of these guys, I'd go Brian Hill because at least he's splitting time with Gurley basically at this point. Because all the others are just second to third fiddle. I'd actually go Hill here.
Same. Yep.
I have a mental block when it comes to Hill. I just can't play him.
You can't get over that hill.
But
maybe I'm making a mountain out of a Brian Hill. But let's see. Do I start Edelman, Justin Jefferson, or John Brown? That's an interesting. Well, Edelman obviously is going to go to the bottom of the list
because of the game. Yeah.
Joining us, Jacob. So if for anybody who hasn't heard yet, the Patriots and the Chiefs. Go straight to me for the Chiefs are not going to play tomorrow, Sunday, and they may play Monday, they may play Tuesday, but we're not sure.
And Cam, apparently, I guess, unless they find out that he's false positive, Cam is not going to play regardless. Right. And so you're going to have, I saw a thing where they said Brian Hoyer is going to
Brian
start. So yeah, that's not an ideal situation. It's Brown for me because I don't know yet if how much of a fluke that Justin Jefferson game was. You can make an argument for playing him, but Brown for the first 2 weeks before he was banged up last week did very well. They're throwing the ball a lot. I would go Brown.
Yeah, I like Brown too. AJ,
Same.
What are we gonna say?
Same.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we missed one up here. Oof. If Patriots move later in the year, he has to flex AJ Green or Deebo Samuel. Yikes.
I think since everybody else is kind of struggling with it, I think AJ for me. I mean, the first 2 games he was getting the targets and just missing them. Last week, became more of a T. Higgins game, but I think he can have some good games this year. Deebo, not only with it being his first week back, but with Mullins starting over Garoppolo. Although, is Jimmy Garoppolo really that good? Is it going to be that big of a decline? I don't know. Either way, between those 2 factors of their starting quarterback being out and Deebo playing his first game in a long time, I'm going to go AJ Green.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just saw that Eagles placed their left tackle Jason Peters on injured reserve. Who do they have on the offensive line there?
I don't know.
It's basically it's the old folks' home for offensive linemen is what it is.
Man. It's basically they're ushers. They just welcome people through the turnstile as they greet Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Poor guy. Oh man.
Yeah, 50-year-old Lane Johnson, 50-year-old Jason Kelsey. Oh my goodness, this offensive line is old. Wow.
Actually 50 years old. Well, do you guys have anything else? We've gone an hour and 30 minutes and we're out of questions. If anybody we
got 2 more. We got 2 more.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yeah. So first up we have Drew's got CEH. Should he sit him just straight up right now? If you've got someone who's playing on Sunday, like I don't know, like let's just say Gurley or someone who you have in your bench, or maybe even Gaskin, do you put them in and play them on Sunday without knowing whether the Chiefs are going to play this weekend? Or
we talked a little bit. we talked a little bit about this before you came on. AJ,
Yeah, I was listening.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess just going back to what we said before, just to kind of reiterate some of that, like I think it depends on what the drop off is to your next option and what your risk tolerance is. I mean, I would say, as long as you're, free on Sunday mornings, that you can wait up until game time to see what the latest news is. Because if they've had more positive tests within either team, then I think the game almost certainly will not get played. So if that's happened, then you're probably going to have to put someone else in regardless of who it is. If not, and you have, say you have 3 good running backs, you can put another running back in that spot. You can flex a good wide receiver. Maybe you do that. If the drop off is huge, then I think that's where you then start. If there are no more positive tests tomorrow, then and the drop off is huge, then I think that's where you just start like looking at taking the risk and hoping that they play Monday or Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think, AJ? Because I'm not as sold on CEH anyways. I think who they're playing. Look, he's good, but playing a pretty stout defense. What running back defense with the Patriots?
I was laughing about the irony of how like that's kind of the perfect microcosm of the whole thing with the running backs you're against versus you being in belief of Mark Ingram because they played each other Monday night, and CEH still against a good defense got 20 carries. He ended up with 15.9 points, and he's been in double digits every week. The only one he didn't really have a good game against, oddly enough, was the Chargers, which I guess their run defense isn't terrible. But anyway,
they always play the Chiefs tough.
And they always play the Chiefs tough. I was just laughing about that because it just kind of sums up since CEH played Ingram Monday night.
Oh, Drew said he's got Edwards, Singletary, Henderson, and Sanders.
Oh.
Yeah, you're set.
Yeah, I would definitely sit him.
I would sit him then, yeah. I would not take the risk because you've got some good options there.
Yep. One last question we had. Is White worth more than Hunt with Cam out, assuming New England plays here?
I think White's coming off. I don't know.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, he could be, but that they're playing Rex, they're playing Sony Michel, they're playing White will get in there. I think like JJ Taylor was getting carries. It's hard for me to trust anybody in that backfield. And and the way Hunt's been playing, like I would start Hunt if he's healthy. I would start Hunt even as technically a number 2 back over some starters, and a lot of starters in this league actually probably.
You think even if Hoyer plays, he won't be dumping it off to White half the time?
Who knows?
Right. Yeah, there are way too many variables in that game. Like, is the game even going to get played? Like, is, with White coming back and Burkhead doing well, does Burkhead keep more of, that role than he would have? Way too many variables for me.
Before we go, I did want to. It's been a while since we have shared our. Let's see, where is it? Since we've shared our merch, I want to go get some of our merch. We've talked about it. We're gonna get. I promise. Who do I owe a shirt to?
Ryan,
Ben, and Ryan, and 710.
Ryan, Luke, and 710. There you go.
Luke too. All right. Yeah. All right. And so I got to get those to them so they can start wrapping them. And we also have to. You said you got AJ. You said you got on to what is it called? You got on to Discord. Yeah. So what about you, Jared?
You need to send me the link.
I don't remember if I did or not. I'll have to look and see and try to then get on there.
Because that'd be fun. I think that'd be fun to be able to chat with our
Mhm.
listeners. We could send that link out. I think I will have that ready by Tuesday. Send out a link
All right.
and get us chatting together on games. We could send some of these. You guys are fast on the trigger as far as some of these red alerts, so we could share with each other some breaking news and information.
I will say back to the merch thing, like, sometimes you see something and like just the mock-up image of it, you can't really tell like that's really going to look like in person. Judah's repping a hoodie, and that looks pretty good. Like, I'm not.
You like that?
I like the color. I'm partial to blue, but I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I love the blue. I love the different blues in that. We got some good colors in there.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't like the blue. I think it's a little too bright for me. I'm gonna go out and get the black, but I just like black shirts better. I teach, and my students laugh. Did I tell you the story where one of my students saw somebody and he thought it was me, and because I picked him up for we had a study group, and he saw somebody, thought it was me, and when I picked him up, he's like, "There's the guy I thought it was you," and he turns around and it's like this overweight Asian guy. I'm like, "What? Why did you think that was me?" And he said because he's wearing a black shirt, and you always wear a black shirt. I'm like, I wear black shirts too much. All right, any more? Todd says, "I lied. I've got Gage. I can pivot
Nice.
to Monday night." There we go.
Which
That's
I
cool.
am so annoyed with Falcons wide receivers right now because all three of them are questionable. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's frustrating as a Ridley and Julio owner in one league. It's not a fun time.
So also the Indy Chicago game, this
Yep.
to you guys has been moved to the
4:30.
schedule.
Yeah.
4:30 schedule. So that might be some, maybe target some guys in that group. So you want to pivot to guys that are going to be in the latest possible scenario, right? So you have the most news possible. Monday game, evening game. Who's the
what is the Sunday night game?
That is going to be Eagles 49ers. Hey.
That's right. Well, you could always pick up, like, there will be some like random probably Eagles wide receiver you could pick up and throw out there. Well,
Ward
but I mean, like, even beyond Ward, there's probably somebody.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's not the most appealing matchup, but if you're desperate, there's so many guys. Like, you could throw Kendrick Bourne in there if you're super desperate. That's like that is a game for desperate fantasy owners, because you could throw the 49ers third or fourth wide receiver in there. You could throw the Eagles third or fourth wide receiver in there, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He also says, true, but Gage looking good.
Yeah.
We forgot to talk about Ridley. In the news with all this COVID stuff, Ridley being hobbled is really ticking me off. I'm glad that he has till Monday to get things patched up, and I think he is, running through drills. But that
he was
is
limited on
situation.
Friday, so it seems like he's going to be good for Monday.
I guess, but if he's banged up, and Gage might be a nice option if he's banged up, and Julio, who knows what's going on.
Even if both of them play, Gage is still a good option.
Yeah. Go see if there's any Gage on the way.
I think there's probably a fair amount. And I was thinking, like if it's owners who have Cam, well, no, we know Cam's not going to play. But if it's an owner who has Mahomes and you want to try to push it, that Sunday night game, like Wentz and Mullins are going to be on a lot of waiver wires. Like Wentz is actually 70% owned, but he's on 3/4 of my waiver wires. And then Mullins is out there. So that might be, if you're looking to hold out for Patrick Mahomes, they're playing, Monday night or whatever, and you want to roll the dice and just try to get through Sunday to see if there's any more positive tests or something, you could maybe do one of those guys. Gage is 48% owned, but he's actually taken in like 2/3 of my leagues. So
yeah, me too.
Got one last question from Josh Twenter. Chark, Fuller, Jefferson, Scantling. Pick 2.
How did I miss that? Hey, Josh. Sorry. Josh, Clark, Fuller,
Chark,
Jefferson, Chark, Fuller, Jefferson, MVS. I like MVS. I saw Jared. You grabbed him real quick when the news came out. We didn't even talk about that. Lazard being out.
Yeah.
Lazard being out for who knows how long, had some kind of secret surgery on his pec or something. But it might not be a terrible surgery. There's not much
out for 4 to 6 weeks, at least.
Is it for sure?
At least 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Core muscle injuries are weird.
Right. So MVS looking pretty good. If he's out there on your waiver wire, snap him up, because there's not much for wide receivers with one of the best. No, I will say the best quarterback in history.
Not that you're biased.
Throwing to him.
Yeah, just on MVS, like I don't want to trust him. I picked him up. I picked him up in case, there were because I was missing Juju, and there's going to be all these other guys out. I don't want to have to trust him, but I picked him up in some leagues. I'm probably now dropping him in a lot of those leagues. I picked him up because I've got to replace probably a kicker or a quarterback like Mahomes, or a defense, or a tight end. I have a league where I have Kelsey and Jonnu both, and so I'm probably going to end up dropping him because he's, the last guy on my bench, and I need to replace at least one spot. So I think he's a great desperation play. Maybe above desperation. Maybe desperation's a little too strong, but you just can't trust like that Saints game. You would have thought he would have gotten, more of an opportunity there. He didn't.
Even with Lazard out there.
Devontae's coming back. Devontae's back. So,
but you gotta have more than one receiver.
The Packers.
The
Packers didn't seem to think so for multiple reasons, but Devontae, when he's in, he gobbles up targets, and they like to throw to the running back a lot. But in that game, they decided that they didn't really need more than one receiver. Lazard, is it Lazard or Lazard?
I don't know.
It's Lazard.
So he had 8 targets. MVS had 1 catch for 5 yards in that game. And that's not like out of the ordinary for him to just throw up a 0, more or less. He did that.
Fuller more?
I would trust Fuller more. Yeah. I mean, like, not by a whole lot, but with Fuller, it's more about his injuries. Like, if he's in there, I think he's going to get targets. It's just not knowing if he's, for sure going to. They're both gambles. I guess I would go Fuller and Chark. This is a tough one. I mean, MVS has a lot of upside potential against the Falcons. Like, if there's a game, if there's a game that I was going to play MVS, it might be this one. And the more I talk about this, I might talk myself into playing him for 1 week. Because Chark,
MVS has a bye next week too. So
yeah, Chark, Chark was out last week, so we only have a 2-week sample, but in 2 weeks, he has 3 targets against Indy and 4 against Tennessee.
It hasn't looked very good.
It hasn't looked that good. The Jaguars aren't running a lot of plays. So I'll actually talk myself out of him, and I'll say Fuller, and for 1 week, I'll say take a chance on MVS because of that Falcons secondary.
Well, what do you think, AJ?
Look, the only reason this is even in the conversation, and Judah Buddha, you know this, I've never really been a fan of Valdez Scantling. Ever. Y'all, you know that. I would go Fuller here out of necessity. Justin Jefferson is really, really interesting to me. He was probably my second biggest wide receiver coming out of college that I thought would be able to make impacts. Because I'm like, Diggs is gone, so what's stopping him? I just don't know what to think about the Vikings offense right now because you have Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league when healthy, so he'll be there for 9 more weeks probably. You've got Adam Thielen. Cousins is having a little bit of a rough time getting going. They're playing Houston, which, I mean, they have a decent front seven, but a terrible back line. So I probably wouldn't go Jefferson this week. This is a prove-it game for Chark for me. This is probably one of my last weeks I start Chark. He's back after a week of injury. Minshew had a atrocious game without him. So I think this is definitely a Robinson game primarily just because that's where the Jaguars are leading to, and Robinson's looking to be the pickup of the year. But I think this is a prove it. This is my Kenyon Drake game, but for DJ Chark. This is a prove it game for Chark to see if he belongs in my lineup. I would go Chark and Fuller here. Even though MBS is enticing. I get that because you can throw all over the Falcons.
I'm going MVS. I think that was just that was an outlier game, especially with Lazard being out. I think he's going to be peppered with targets against the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can't even say whether or not Devontae is 100%. He might be a decoy. So I think that, especially with it being isn't it a later game as well?
It's Monday, so they have an extra day.
It's Monday, yeah, it's Monday's game. So I think I'm going with MVS with all the uncertainty. I like MVS and Jefferson. I don't know, maybe Chark. Maybe, like you said, the prove it game about Chark. Mm-hmm. It's not even a prove it game. I think this maybe he was really struggling with some kind of injury, and hopefully it's better now, and he has a little bit better of a game. Hard to tell, but I don't be so down on MVS. I think this could be a big game for him.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to have to wrap it up. I've got a meeting in 10 minutes, and we've been going for almost 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Got a lot of really good, dedicated followers. Tell your friends about it and buy a shirt.
See, that's the problem with Fantasy Football Podcast, because if they actually like the advice we give, they're not going to want to tell anybody, because then it's like, oh, they'll be getting the same advice. I remember last year I had someone I was playing against come on and ask me, hey, who should I start against you this week last year? And I was like, I really got to do this.
That's why we have a limited amount of viewers, is only the most elite and savvy fantasy football players tune into us. It's like a secret society. It's like a secret society that controls the world of fantasy football. You know,
we should call ourselves the Roto Speakeasy, where you have to have a special knock to get in. That wasn't very special of a knock. Oh man, I love Ben. He's always so encouraging. And Drew, we got some great listeners, and we will see you guys Tuesday evening. So we, for those of you who are new or what have you, we do it Tuesday evenings, usually around, I think we're shooting for 9:00 Eastern time, right? Depending on what's going on.
Yep. And
we meet Saturday mornings, typically about 11:30ish Eastern time. But we love to see you subscribe and like. If you subscribe, and if you get on our fantasy football page on Facebook, you'll see some notifications about when we're going to start. Or usually we get, we fly the flag up saying we're about to start. Todd, thank you for joining us this week, guys. Yes. Right. Smash that bell. Good work. Well, thank you very much, Todd. We love you, man. Come back and see us Tuesday night. Yeah.
that something we didn't talk about that we probably need to mention real quick is DeAndre Hopkins is a game time decision for the Cardinals.
Right.
How do we forget about that?
As is, I think Christian Kirk is questionable too. So it makes Andy Isabella potentially a good streaming option if it turns out Hopkins is out. And it also lends to the idea that this may have to be a Drake game.
Good point. Fire up those Drake shares because, well, I don't know though. This could be a real bad letdown spot for Cardinals as well. This could be just a terrible game offensively for them, which would not be good for Drake.
I think Carolina could stack 11 in the box and you could still run on them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could. It might be a fire up your Drake. I just caution though. This might be Arizona's due for.
Drake cannot be doing more mediocre than he is doing right now.
Who's that?
Drake cannot be doing more mediocre than he's doing right now.
He can't do worse, right? I don't know if that's a great endorsement. Faint praise from AJ Herschel. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And unless you guys have anything else, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to play. I made this spot. So if you have anything that you need to do right now,
do it. Do it. Come on. Come on. Do it now. Do it.
Except everyone, the problem is like probably every one of our regular listeners immediately hit the X to close the browser window as soon as you did your little, I do want to, because they've fallen for that too many times. It's like the little, fantasy analyst who cried wolf, so
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. There's this other thing that could be true too.